The war room of the Draxian High Command was built for certainty. Everything about it reflected control and dominance. The walls were dark and seamless, absorbing light instead of reflecting it. The chamber was vast, large enough to hold a fleet, yet silent enough to hear the smallest movement. At its center floated a massive holographic projection of a distant star system. A yellow star, 8 planets, and one small blue world. Earth. Commander Vialthrex stood at the front, his posture rigid, his gaze fixed on the glowing sphere. His species did not hesitate. They calculated, they decided, they acted, and Earth had already been decided. Primitive, he said calmly. They remain bound to their planet. Their orbital presence is insignificant. Their communications are chaotic and divided. The commanders around him observed without concern. They are fractured, one said. Multiple governing bodies, competing ideologies, no unified leadership. Their technology is inefficient, another added. Their weapons are outdated. The defenses are non-existent beyond their atmosphere. Vialthrex expanded the projection. Cities lit the dark side of the planet like scattered embers. And yet they survive, he said quietly. That was the only irregularity. Species like this usually destroyed themselves long before reaching this stage. Internal conflict, environmental collapse, resource depletion. These patterns were predictable, but humanity had endured them all. And continued forward. It is an anomaly, strategist Corval said. Not a threat. Vialthrex nodded once. Invasion will begin within one planetary cycle, he said. Full planetary sterilization. The species will not survive. There was no debate. There never was. Until now. Commander. The voice came from the edge of the chamber. A junior analyst stood rigid, but something was wrong. His tone carried hesitation. Vialthrex did not turn immediately. Report. We are receiving transmissions, the analyst said. Unknown origin. Corval spoke sharply. Local interference. No, the analyst replied. That is the anomaly. Now Vialthrex turned. Explain. The analyst hesitated for a moment. The signals are not coming from the planet, he said. They are coming from outside the system. Silence filled the chamber. That is not possible, Corval said. Their technology does not support interstellar travel. That assessment was made decades ago, the analyst replied carefully. Based on early data, that data may no longer be accurate. Vialthrex stepped forward. Show me. The hologram shifted. New data flooded the display. Signals, movement patterns, energy readings. Then shapes appeared. Ships. At first only a few. Then dozens. Then hundreds. They were not near Earth. They were far beyond it. And they were approaching. Magnify. Vialthrex ordered. The display zoomed in. The ships became clearer. They were massive, armored, scarred. Some showed signs of repeated repairs. Others carried energy signatures far beyond expected human capability. These are not exploration vessels, Corval said. No, Vialthrex replied. They are warships. The numbers continued to rise. Thousands. Still increasing. How many are there? Vialthrex asked. The analyst's voice lowered. We are still counting. Then the transmission arrived. Clear, direct, unencrypted. A human voice filled the chamber. Unknown fleet near the Sol system. This is Human Expeditionary Command. No one spoke. We have identified your fleet and your formation, the voice continued. You are preparing an attack. It was not a question. We have been out here for a long time. The display shifted again. More ships appeared. Entire formations emerging from beyond sensor range. We encountered hostile forces beyond our system, the voice said. Multiple species. Multiple threats. A pause. They tried to destroy us. Another pause. They failed. Vialthrex felt something unfamiliar begin to form. Not fear, but uncertainty. Show historical data, he ordered. The display shifted to archived records. Old human transmissions. Plans for exploration. Early spacecraft. They launched primitive vessels, the analyst explained. Many were lost. Most were not expected to survive. Images flickered. Fragile ships drifting through darkness. Systems failing. Crews struggling. They continued anyway, Vielthrex said. Yes, the analyst confirmed. Even when survival was unlikely. The data accelerated. More ships. More attempts. Failures turning into improvements. Encounters with unknown environments. Unknown threats. They adapted, the analyst whispered. They survived, Vielthrex corrected. A new transmission appeared. This time it included a visual. A human stood on the screen. His face was worn, marked by experience. One eye carried a faint scar, but his gaze was steady. Behind him stood rows of personnel. Ships filled the space beyond them. You looked at our world and saw weakness, he said. No one interrupted. We looked at the universe and saw something else. Images appeared behind him. Battles. Destruction. Encounters with forces far more dangerous than anything the Draxians had faced. We did not leave Earth because we were ready, he said. We left because we had no choice. He leaned forward slightly. Everything out there tried to kill us. A pause. So we learned how to survive it. The Draxian fleet began to shift into defensive formation. This had not been planned. This is unnecessary, Corval said, though his voice lacked certainty. Vielthrex watched the human fleet. They are not preparing to defend, he said. Corval frowned. They are advancing. The realization spread instantly. They are coming toward us, the analyst said. They never intended to wait, Vielthrex replied. The human commander spoke again. We did not come back to hide. The fleet behind him tightened its formation. We came back to make sure nothing like what we faced ever reaches Earth. His eyes hardened. This is your final warning. A brief silence followed. Turn around. No one in the war room moved. Vielthrex felt the weight of the moment. For the first time, the outcome was not certain. They are not a developing species, he said quietly. They are a surviving one. The first human weapon fired. There was no warning, no build-up. A single strike crossed the distance instantly. It struck a Draxian vessel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship collapsed inward and disappeared, as if it had never existed. Alarms filled the chamber. Shields failing. Multiple ships lost. They're inside our formation. More human ships surged forward. Their attacks were varied and unpredictable. Some used overwhelming force. Others used precision strikes. Their movements were fluid, constantly adapting. There was no single pattern. No single doctrine. Each ship fought as if it had learned through experience. Because it had. They're overwhelming us, the analyst said. Vielthrex said nothing. He understood now. The universe had tried to destroy this species. Again and again. Predators. Environments. Entire civilizations. All had tried. And all had failed. Humanity had not grown in safety. It had grown in conflict. It had learned to survive anything. They are not prey, Vielthrex said. No one argued. The human voice returned one last time. We gave you a choice. Another Draxian ship vanished under concentrated fire. You should have taken it. The transmission ended. Vielthrex watched the battle unfold. Watched his fleet collapse under a force they had never anticipated. And for the first time in his command, he gave an order he never thought he would. All forces, he said. Retreat. Silence followed. Because that word had never existed in the doctrine. But it existed now. Because this was not a species that could be erased. This was a species that had already faced extinction. And survived. They had come to destroy Earth. But Earth had already answered. Not with defenses. Not with fear. But with something far more dangerous. Humanity had gone into the stars. And it had come back stronger than anything that had tried to destroy it. The universe had tested humanity. And humanity had passed. Now it was everyone else's turn to survive them. The retreat order should have saved them. It did not. The Draxian fleet began to break formation, engines flaring as ships attempted to pull back from the expanding human advance. Defensive patterns dissolved into scattered vectors. Calculated precision turned into desperate movement. And the humans adapted instantly. They are predicting our retreat paths, the analyst said, his voice strained. On the hologram, red lines shifted. Human ships cut across escape routes with frightening accuracy, intercepting vessels before they could gain distance. "They're not just reacting," Corval said. "They anticipated this." Vialthrex watched the display without blinking. Of course they did. A species that survived the unknown did not wait to see what happened next. They planned for it. "Open a channel," Vialthrex said. The chamber hesitated. "Commander," Corval said quietly, "they're actively engaging. Communication may be ignored." "Open it," Vialthrex repeated. The signal was sent. For a brief moment, there was only static. Then the human commander appeared again. His expression had not changed. "You chose not to turn around," he said. "This engagement is no longer optional." Vialthrex stepped forward. "We are disengaging," he said. "Our fleet is withdrawing from your system." The human's eyes remained fixed. "You were not withdrawing when you arrived." "That is correct," Vialthrex replied. "But we are withdrawing now." A pause followed. "Not long, but long enough to matter." "Why?" the human asked. Vialthrex did not hesitate. "Because we miscalculated." The honesty rippled through the chamber behind him. Draxians did not admit error to enemy species. But this was no longer a standard engagement. The human studied him. Then, slowly, he nodded. "That is the first correct decision you have made." For a moment, it seemed the tension might break. Then the senses screamed. "New contacts," the analyst shouted. The hologram shifted violently as new signatures appeared. Not from the human fleet. From beyond it, massive shapes tore into existence at the edge of the system, warping space as they arrived. Their energy readings dwarfed even the largest human vessels. The chamber fell silent. "What are those?" Corval whispered. Vialthrex did not answer, because the human commander did. His voice cut in over the open channel, sharper now. "That," he said, "is why we told you to leave earlier." The new fleet advanced. Their ships were unlike anything in the Draxian records. Organic curves fused with mechanical structures. Surfaces that shifted and pulsed as if alive. Their movement was smooth, unnatural, almost predatory. And they were not alone. Behind them, more shapes emerged. Larger, slower, vast constructs that blotted out entire sections of the starfield. "They're locking onto everything," the analyst said. "Both fleets." Vialthrex felt the shift instantly. This was not an arrival. This was a hunt. "Identify them," he ordered. The analyst scanned frantically. No match in any database. Unknown classification. Unknown origin. The human commander spoke again. "We call them the harvesters," he said. There was no fear in his voice. Only recognition. "They do not negotiate. They do not retreat. They do not stop." The first harvester ship fired. A wave of distorted space rippled outward, passing through a cluster of Draxian vessels. For a fraction of a second, the ships remained intact. Then they folded. Not destroyed. Folded inward, compressed into nothing, erased without debris or explosion. The same wave continued. It struck a human ship. But this time, something different happened. The human vessel flared with energy, its hull glowing as systems activated. The wave bent around it, distorted, and then dissipated. "They've adapted to it," Corval said, disbelief in his voice. "They learned," Vialthrex replied. "Of course they did. They always did." The battlefield transformed instantly. Human ships pivoted, their formation shifting with precision. Retreat patterns vanished. Attack vectors reformed. They were no longer fighting the Draxians. They were engaging something far worse. "We need to leave," the analyst said. "No," Vialthrex said quietly. Every eye turned to him. "We need to survive." Another harvester construct moved forward. It opened along its surface, revealing a core that pulsed with unstable light. "Energy spike detected," the analyst warned. The human commander's voice returned immediately. "All human vessels, scatter pattern 7. The fleet responded instantly. Ships broke formation, spreading out in unpredictable directions. The harvester weapon fired. A beam unlike anything seen before tore across space, carving a line through everything in its path. A Draxian battleship vanished. 3 human ships were caught at the edge of the blast. 2 were destroyed. The third survived, barely, its hull shattered but still moving. "They are not invincible," Corval said. "No," Vialthrex replied, "but they are prepared." Another transmission came through from the human commander. This time, his voice was different. Faster, focused. "If you want to survive," he said, "stop running and listen." Vialthrex did not hesitate. "We are listening." A brief pause. Then the humans spoke. "They track movement. They prioritize fleeing targets. The more you scatter, the easier you are to isolate." The Draxian fleet display confirmed it. Ships attempting full retreat were being targeted first. "They're herding us," the analyst said. "Yes," the human replied. "That's what they do." Another harvester advanced. This one moved directly toward the largest cluster of Draxian ships. "Your current trajectory will get you all killed," the human continued. Vialthrex made a decision. "All ships," he ordered. "Hold formation." The command echoed across the fleet. Engines dimmed. Movement slowed. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze. The harvester paused. Its trajectory shifted. "They're recalculating," the analyst said. "Good," the human replied. "Now stay still." Vialthrex stared at the human commander. "You have faced them before." "Yes, and survived." The human gave a faint, humorless smile. "Not all of us." Another harvester wave surged forward. This time, human ships moved to intercept. They did not flee. They engaged. Weapons fired in coordinated bursts, targeting specific points along the harvester hulls. Sections of the massive constructs began to destabilize, their surfaces fracturing under sustained attack. "They know where to hit," Corval said. "They learned that too," Vialthrex replied. The battle intensified. Human ships darted between harvester constructs, drawing fire, redirecting attacks, protecting weaker targets. Including the Draxians. "Why are they defending us?" the analyst asked. Vialthrex answered before anyone else could. "Because if we fall, they are next." The human commander's voice returned. "We can't fight them alone," he said. It was not a request. It was a fact. Vialthrex straightened. For the first time in his command, he understood something fundamental. This was not a war of conquest. This was survival. "All Draxian vessels," he said. His voice carried across the fleet. "New directive." Corval looked at him. "Commander." Vialthrex did not look away from the battlefield. "We are no longer retreating." A harvester beam tore through space, narrowly missing a cluster of ships. "We are no longer engaging humanity." Human ships surged forward, striking at a weakened harvester flank. "We are engaging the greater threat." He paused, then gave the order that would change everything. "Coordinate with human forces." Silence followed, because that command had never existed before. But it existed now, because the universe had just revealed something far worse than either of them. And humanity was the only species that had survived it before. The human commander's voice came through one last time. Clear, focused, ready. "Good," he said. "Now try to keep up." The battlefield did not slow down. It evolved. The moment the Draxian fleet aligned with human formations, the nature of the conflict changed entirely. No longer scattered prey, no longer predictable targets, they became something else. A variable. And the harvesters reacted. Massive constructs shifted their positions, their movements no longer smooth but recalculating, adjusting to a resistance they had not expected. Their targeting beams hesitated, redirected, split across multiple vectors. "They're adapting," the analyst said. "So are we," Vialthrex replied. The human fleet surged forward, no longer alone. For the first time in Draxian history, their ships moved in coordination with another species. Data streams opened between fleets. Targeting information flowed. Weak points were identified in real time. It was chaotic. It was imperfect. But it worked. "Focus fire on designated segments," the human commander said. "Do not aim for destruction. Aim for destabilization." Draxian gunners hesitated for only a fraction of a second before complying. They fired. Energy strikes hit the surface of a harvester construct. Instead of dispersing harmlessly, they struck the same locations as the human weapons. The effect was immediate. The massive structure began to fracture, its surface folding inward as internal systems collapsed. "It is working," Corval said. The construct twisted violently, its form destabilizing before imploding into a collapsing mass of distorted energy. One down. Dozens remained. "Do not stop," the human commander said. Another harvester surged forward. This one was larger. Its surface opened in layers, revealing rotating structures deep within. Energy built rapidly, far greater than anything seen before. "New weapon charge detected," the analyst warned. Magnitude increasing. The human commander responded instantly. "All ships, break formation." The fleet scattered. A beam erupted from the harvester. It did not cut across space. It consumed it. A widening cone of distortion expanded outward, swallowing everything in its path. Ships that failed to move quickly enough vanished without trace. Draxian and human alike. The wave passed. Silence followed for a fraction of a second. Then the battle resumed. "They're escalating," Corval said. "They always do," Vialthrex replied. The human fleet reformed almost instantly. Draxian ships followed, slower but improving. Patterns were emerging. Coordination was increasing. Survival rates were rising. "They're learning from us," the analyst said. Vialthrex shook his head slightly. "No," he watched the human ships as they moved with precision. "We are learning from them." Another transmission came through. The human commander appeared again, but this time there was no distance in his tone. "We cannot win this by defense," he said. "They will keep coming." Vialthrex understood. "Then we end it." A pause. Then the human nodded. "Exactly." The battlefield shifted again. Instead of holding ground, the combined fleet began to push forward. Toward the source. Toward the largest harvester construct. It dwarfed everything else. A massive structure at the edge of the system, pulsing with energy. Smaller constructs moved around it, protecting it, feeding into it. "That is the core," the analyst said. "Everything is linked to it." The human commander spoke. "If we take that down, the rest collapse." Quote. Corval stared at the display. "It is heavily defended." "Yes," Vialthrex said. "Then we break through." The combined fleet accelerated. Human ships took the lead, their movements aggressive and precise. Draxian ships followed, forming layered support patterns. The harvesters responded immediately. Defensive constructs moved to intercept. Beams of destructive energy cut across space. Ships were lost, many, but the formation held. "Maintain vector," Vialthrex ordered. A Draxian cruiser was struck and began to break apart. Another ship moved into its place without hesitation. There was no retreat now. Only forward. The human commander's voice remained constant. "Stay on target." The distance closed. The core construct loomed larger. Its surface shifted, reacting to the incoming threat. Energy levels spiked beyond measurable limits. "It is preparing something," the analyst said. Vialthrex did not need confirmation. He could feel it. "A weapon. Something final." "We do not have time," Corval said. The human commander responded. "Then we make time." A group of human ships broke formation. They accelerated directly toward the core. "What are they doing?" the analyst said. Vialthrex watched closely. "They are drawing its focus." The core shifted. Its energy redirected toward the incoming ships. Multiple lock-ons detected, the analyst confirmed. The human ships did not slow. They pushed forward. Closer, closer. Then the core fired. A concentrated beam struck the lead human vessel. It held for a moment. Then it detonated. The explosion lit the battlefield. But the others continued. "They are sacrificing themselves," Corval said. "They are buying us a window," Vialthrex replied. The path opened. "Now," the human commander said. Vialthrex did not hesitate. All ships, full power. The Draxian fleet surged forward. Weapons fired continuously, striking the weakened sections of the core. Human ships joined in, focusing their fire with deadly precision. The core began to destabilize. Its surface cracked. Energy leaked from within. It is collapsing, the analyst said. Not yet, Vialthrex replied. Because he saw it, the energy building again, uncontrolled, violent. It will take everything with it, Corval said. The human commander spoke. All ships, prepare to disengage. Vialthrex's eyes narrowed. If we withdraw now, it will recover. It will not, the human said. There was certainty in his voice. A final group of human ships moved forward. Larger, heavily armored. They're carrying something, the analyst said. Vialthrex understood instantly. A final strike. The ships reached the core. They did not fire. They did not turn. They impacted. The detonation that followed was beyond anything seen before. Light filled the system. Space itself seemed to fracture. The core collapsed inward, its structure tearing apart as the energy within consumed it. Shockwaves rippled outward, destroying nearby constructs. The harvesters began to fail. One by one, their movements slowed, their weapons ceased, their forms collapsed into lifeless debris. The battlefield fell silent. Slowly, carefully, the combined fleet pulled back. Damage reports flooded in. Losses were heavy, on both sides. But they were alive. Vialthrex stood in silence, watching the remains of the harvester fleet drift into nothing. They're gone, the analyst said. Yes, Vialthrex replied. The human commander appeared one final time. His face was more worn now, more tired, but his eyes were steady. It is over, he said. Vialthrex inclined his head slightly. You have faced them before. Yes, and you came back anyway. The human gave a faint smile. We always do. A pause followed. Different this time. Not hostile. Not uncertain. Just quiet. Vialthrex spoke. We came here to destroy your world. Yes, the human said. And instead, you saved us. The human shook his head. No, he looked at the battlefield. At the cost of many lives. We survived, he said. That is enough. Vialthrex considered that, then nodded. For your species, perhaps. The human's expression did not change. For any species, he said. The transmission ended. The war room remained silent. Not because there was nothing to say, but because everything had already been understood. The Draxians had come to erase humanity. They had believed it to be weak, unprepared, insignificant. They had been wrong. Humanity had faced the worst the universe could offer, and survived, not because they were stronger, but because they refused to stop. Vialthrex looked at the distant blue planet once more. It no longer seemed small. It no longer seemed vulnerable. It was something else now. A home that had endured. A species that had adapted. A force that had returned from the darkness stronger than anything that had tried to destroy it. He gave a final command. All fleets, stand down. There would be no second invasion. There would be no future conflict. Because some lessons only needed to be learned once. And this one had cost enough. Far beyond the battlefield, Earth continued to turn. Unaware, unchanged, protected, not by walls, not by weapons, but by something far more dangerous. Humanity had gone into the stars. And it had come back. Not as conquerors, not as victims, but as survivors of a universe that had tried to erase them. And failed.